Well, good morning. How's everybody out there today? We got Victor Antonio with us again.
Hey, good to be here, Ed. Thank you for having me again.
Stormy kind of bumped us into this, so we were chuckling a little bit, so bear with us. But a couple things about Victor. Check out his tie. Victor has a new Orkin tie on.
I know you can't zoom in on that, but look at that baby. Look at that baby.
He retired. We gave him a tie like 11 years ago when he first started coming down here to help us with the advanced sales classes that a bunch of the faces I see out there participated in. And Stormy said last week, Stormy runs this whole show here in the studio. She said, Victor needs a new tie. So she got him a new tie. I think that's pretty slick.
I think I can't believe it's been 11 years, though. It's been
11 years.
Wow.
11 years.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Time does fly.
Amen. So Victor's in really high demand. We're lucky to have him.
Yeah.
He sent me some video last night. He did an event last week in Columbus, Ohio that I just thought was super cool. Like to 5,000 people?
5,000 people live.
Tell them a little bit about it, because I think it's a cool story.
Yeah, it was a 3-day event, 5,000 people. So I MC and speak at the event. So that was nice. I mean, just to have that many people in the room, no mask. It was like 5,000 people, crazy. Oh, I didn't tell you this. They gave me pyro. Yeah, on one of my outros, like pyro. And I was like super.
You didn't have to worry about lighting your hair on
fire. Yeah, I was like a little kid. Give me some pyro. So anyway, it was really fun. Did a thing called a silent disco. Have you ever done a silent disco?
I have not.
By the way, if you've done a silent disco, hit me with a 1. It's basically when they have 3 DJs, Ed.
Okay.
And each DJ had a colored booth, like red, green, I forgot yellow. And then when you get the headphone, whatever channel you turn it on to, because you can't hear the music unless you have the headphones on, you're listening to that DJ. And as you're moving around, dancing and having fun, you can look at people's headphones to see which DJ they're listening to make sure they're on the same channel. It was amazing. It was great. And by the way, there was a 70s theme to it. So the outfits were just incredible. People were enjoying themselves, but it was really good to have 5,000 people in a room live. So it was awesome, man. It was awesome.
Outstanding, outstanding. So we got Victor back here, and we like to look around out there. So we think you got a lot of people on. Let's see whose faces we can see out there. Is that Tim Tarantello? He's there.
Tarantello.
I saw my man Shane Messer out there.
Shane Messer. Big shout out to Shane Messer out there somewhere. You know who you are, brother. You know who you are.
Shane Messer, double lung transplant, got nothing to do with being an Orkin sales manager.
My man Gordon's out there, man. I got to give a shout.
Gordon's out there too?
Yeah, Gordon's all right.
Lots of camera shy people out there.
Yeah.
Randy Jackson, my friend from Youngstown, Ohio, is out there. Who else we got out there?
Brad Craig is looking really bored, man.
Brian
He's
Locke.
looking really bored right now. Brad Craig's looking real bored. Randy Jackson, really, man? Randy Jackson, is that really your name, dude? Is that really your name?
That's my guy from Youngstown, man.
No,
Easy
but
there.
is that really his
Easy
name?
there. Easy there. Who else we got? I see Brad Craig. Who else? Steven Genther's out there.
Oh, how about Jenny Cash?
Jason Sager. We got the Michigan and
I'm
Ohio
going with
boys
Jenny
showing
Cash.
Jenny Cash. That's a great name.
I just want to say her name, Jenny Cash. I make money, I make cash.
Who else we got out there?
Cash.
We got Bob Davis out there. Alan Fowler. Is he back again, or was he here earlier? He's just a glutton for punishment. Ron Rydell's in the house. George is here. Awesome.
Hey, by the way, who is that? Is that Jay Shaw? He's in the car. He looks like a lawyer about to take your money. I don't know who he is. Yeah, that guy. He's smiling now.
He's like
like a lawyer to take my money.
All right, cool. Awesome. It's good to see everybody. We're gonna get going.
Let's go.
You want to get started?
Let me think about it. Just let me think about it.
You know, Victor, it's been my experience when people say they want to think about it, it really comes down to one or two things. You're either not interested or you're interested but not sure. Which one of those is it?
I'm interested. I'm just not sure if I want to get started right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of role play for us, kind of reinforcing what we talked about the last broadcast.
Right.
I want to think about it. Common stall objection that we get served up on. I bet you hear it every day. My question to you is, if we turned off these cameras and opened up these mics and had you spin that, and if I said to you, I want to think about it, what would you say? Would you fall back on your old ways, or would you try to incorporate your new teachings? And I'm a big kind of consumer of content and learner, adult learner. And I love watching videos, and I love watching Victor on video, and I push a lot of video at y'all. But the way I figure stuff out is by putting it on paper and making scripts my own. We asked you, when we had you together the last time, script this stuff out, take this stuff, print these scripts, make them your own. Well, by God, that's what I've done. I've printed the whole client says PDF, and I've gone through and scripted, put it in Ed's words, what I would say for all the objections that come through here. And I think that's my, I guess, not a worry, but it's like sometimes I think we get together and we do training, and then we don't do anything else. Freeman Elliott, my boss, had a great example. He told me this years ago. He said training and teaching can't be a meet, eat, and retreat. And we do a ton of that at Orkin. We'll have a big sales meeting. We'll bring everybody in. We'll meet. We'll buy some bagels. And then we'll retreat. We'll go back to the field, and we'll keep doing the same thing. And we never reinforce what we did the last time. So that's kind of my teaser to reinforce you to go back to this stuff if you didn't do this. If you didn't script these answers for yourself. We introduced somewhat of a new concept to many of you. If you didn't go back and do the work, I would ask you to do that. And I want you to talk about practice, because I'm sick about practice. I mean, we just got to do more and more and more of it. Give me your spin on practice and why it's so important.
Here,
great content.
Hand that to me. Hand that to me. So this course right here. This is the client says course. And so in this one, I basically scripted out what you can say when the client says certain things. In there, as we talked about, is the I'll think about it script. And so when we talk about practicing, we know the rules, right? We don't practice on our clients. But I'll think about it is one of the biggest objections we get. And I think that's the script that we have to kind of be able to kind of reply naturally with. So that's why I think that's the one that has to be practiced on. So my instructors, just like yours, always said, again, don't practice on your clients. Make it sound natural. Use your own tone. But I like practicing. I was that guy that didn't like role playing years ago because I thought it feels weird, right? Practicing with somebody you know. But being able to actually just spit the scripts back and just sound naturally. I'm telling you something you already know, but my question is, are we really practicing or teaching our people to actually make sure it sounds natural?
Yeah, and I think some of the feedback that we got from the broadcast is I'd like you guys to, and a lot of it was operations managers. You guys got to go deeper on this. Explain the concept of, we're just trying to skip rocks to you. Skip rocks to you to kind of tease you. Explain that concept of what we're trying to do with these broadcasts.
Yeah, so in this broadcast, we're not trying to educate you. We're trying to inform you. So there's a big difference. Education, we go deep. We always use the rock skipping analogy. It's something I learned years ago. It says when you're really just trying to inform people, which is what we're trying to do here, is we skip the rock. Remember that? You're skipping rocks. Our kids, we're all skipping rocks, right? So we're just trying to give you enough information to kind of keep this conversation going. The education piece comes after this when you go into the Sales Velocity Academy, for example, and really dig into some of the content. So one of the courses is Client Says, and I'm sure we'll touch on one or two later on.
Yeah, I've got a couple more I want to tee up. Again, just if you understand the mindset of what we're trying to do with these broadcasts, just kind of get you curious. I think the word is curious for me. Get you curious enough to do a deeper dive to then become the expert at that. And I think that's all we're trying to do. And hopefully that just tease maybe is a better word. Tease it, man. What else is there?
Yeah.
What else is there?
Have a little fun, and then even do some recognition eventually.
So if the next time we open up the mics and we say, I want to think about it, hopefully we'd have like 100 hands go up and say, me, let me go first, right? Because that would be real practice.
By the way, Ed and I talked about this, and we'll do this some other time. It's about the study by Matt Dixon.
Yeah.
And one of the worst things you can do is when somebody says, let me think about it, one of the worst things, data shows us, is to respond with, well, what do you need to think about? Yeah. Or even ask them more questions. So again, the script really allows you to kind of move them through a process to get to the answer. So check out the Client Says course in the Sales Velocity Academy.
Absolutely. And again, we're going to just keep building on these events that we have with y'all and continue to reinforce what we've done previously. So we had another stellar May. We had a lot of people make a bunch of money.
More or less.
It's crazy. I mean, it's like almost impossible. I'm doing the math and I'm figuring it out. You know, last month in April, we had 29 people get paid on. You know me, I explained it last time. I don't worry so much about what y'all sell. As a salesperson, when I was in production, didn't really matter what I sold. I was really interested in what I was getting paid on.
Sure.
Right?
Take home.
So, yeah, what can I put in the bank, you know?
Right.
So we had 29 people in April get paid on 100,000. So nice. I call it the 100K club, right? Guess how many we had in May?
Don't tell me 29.
29.
Again,
I mean, it's almost like you can't even make this stuff up, right? So I said, well, maybe we had one or two more.
Sounds a little suspicious to me. 29 again, sounds a little suspicious to me.
The finance guys push the numbers out.
Got you.
So
wow.
let's acknowledge those 29, and then we'll talk about them a little bit. So Stormy, if you can run that tape and look at these folks 14% of 100,000 or better.
Wow. Nice done, man. Well done.
Well done.
Well done, man. Well done. Yeah, big numbers, man. Big numbers there.
274,000 from Joey out of
Yeah.
Virginia.
I guess Joey knows how to work, man. Joey knows how to
Joey
work.
knows how to work.
There's a problem with this thing, though. You know, we need to. There's the 100K club. Should we have like a 200K club?
Well, it's getting there now.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's do
think
200.
about it. Four folks at 200,000. One of the chats that popped up in the first session at 8:30 was the 100K club is like gone. It should be a 200K club. But
Yeah, that's
you know, when you think about it, let me just talk about Joey for a second, because I talked to his manager Brad Ray this morning to get a little detail. Joey's been around with us for like 3 or 4 years. Made President's Club a few times and just slayed it last month. And one of the unique things about Joey is that it wasn't one big sale. It wasn't like an $80,000 sale or a couple of those. He really ground it out. I think Brad claimed that his average job price ended up about $8,000 per unit last month. And we've had folks get paid on more business. Like Sam Roberts last year got paid on, he had a $565,000 condominium sale. So there have been people historically that have been paid more than $274,000 in any particular month, but it's always included a big, monster deal. Joey just ground it out, just ground it out. You know, $8,000 a unit and $274,000. I mean, just outstanding.
Just stacking them up. Now, how many repeat offenders from last month?
That's a great term, repeat offenders.
Yeah, how many repeat offenders?
I guess it's good to be in that club, right? So what's interesting is that there are 15 newbies. So my math, 29. So 14 people made a return appearance.
Oh, 15 newbies.
15 new names, not necessarily new people.
Yeah.
And then again, we've got the top 4, which is kind of a unique blend. You've got Gary Richmond and you've got Kevin Myers, who, I mean, they got walls full of President's Club plaques. I think they're well over 20, 25 President's Club wins. They're like the Roger Kennedys of the world and the Chris Pierces of the world. But Joey, again, 3 to 4 years experience, and then Dylan Jenkins out of Tennessee, a couple 3 years of experience. So it's doesn't matter how old you are.
Okay. So the young folks are elbowing their way in there, is
they're
what you're
making
telling
their way
me.
in there.
Give me some room.
But the old guys are fighting them off too,
Yeah, they're
right?
trying.
So, and
Good
the
for
other
them.
thing you got going on there too is you've got a situation where they're all shapes and sizes, right?
Right,
So
right.
I imagine if you had a lineup of those 29 cats, you couldn't pick out who was who. But the other piece that, and we talked about it on the last broadcast, is that it's the country, right? It's the footprint, right? I mean, we go from Miami,
Right.
with Jeff Polston and that gang down there, all the way up to New England and the Peters Brothers and all that, and then swipe it right across the country. And then we go out to California. We got a bunch of folks from California. And I would be remiss, because we called him out last time for not being on the list. My boy Roy. Roy was all offended that he wasn't on the list, and we called him out because he's a perennial $100,000 a year guy. So he sent me a message yesterday. He said, "You better give me some love today." So Roy, here's all the love.
Wait a minute,
for you.
was Roy on the list or not?
Roy was on the list.
Okay, well, did he make the list? All right, good. Well done, Roy. Well done. There you go. There you go.
Again, I think it's never, ever been the Orkin Pro. It's never been the land. It's always been the Orkin Pro.
Right.
Doesn't matter where you're at, you can make this happen. Doesn't matter climates, doesn't matter economy. It just doesn't make any sense to walk back and say, I can't do that in my turf. Because there are people all over the country doing it.
Yeah, there was a good spread on there as far as
Phenomenal.
territories, yeah.
Well, we had 15 different regions.
Yeah.
Right, we only have I guess we got 34, 35 residential regions.
Right.
Half of them had a 100K producer.
Nice, sweet.
Which is just so
sweet.
It's if the old Vaynerchuk line, if anybody ever did it, you can too.
Yep,
29 people did it, you can too.
that's right.
You can too.
That's amazing. So it was 29 and then 29 again.
Yeah. So maybe can we make it 30 next month? Maybe can we try to make this June 30? We got a lot of big performances out there, so we'll tally all that up and we'll get to you the next time on the next broadcast.
Love it. Cool.
So I thought for today we probably should give them some content.
Just a little content.
We hit them with the refresher on the I want to think about it. So I want to skip a couple more stones across their footprint. And the first thing I want to talk about, when I dig into the Sales Velocity Academy, and this changed last night, and Victor and I had this plan when we were talking about it yesterday afternoon, what we're going to talk about, and I changed it up a little bit after I kind of sunk myself into the Sales Velocity Academy again last night and go off on these, end up two hours later, I'm like, oh my God, where did the time go? But I spent a whole bunch of time. My favorite category in the Sales Velocity Academy is the persuasion tab. I think that's where we make our bones. That's where the block and objections content is, and that's where the one I want to focus on today first is the closing the credibility gap.
That's right.
We got to be credible, we got to be trustworthy, people have to trust us, and we have to come across as credible. And I think oftentimes, particularly in the residential situation, we fall into this asymmetry-symmetry kind of conundrum that we can lose deals because of that. So I want you to, and that's lesson number 6, when you click on the persuasion tab and closing the credibility tab. That whole creating credibility is like you can get through the whole thing in 40 minutes. I think I got it done last night. Watched all the videos. So talk a little bit about that asymmetry and symmetry conversation.
Okay, so you could be able to find the course. So if you go into the Sales Velocity Academy, there's the 7 tabs. This one is under persuasion. And under persuasion, there's a course called Closing the Credibility Gap. And it's a course I put together to kind of find a way to build your credibility in front of the customer. What Ed is referring to is that there's something called information asymmetry. Let me give you a visual. I want you to imagine that you're talking to, tell me if this has happened to you before, like you're talking to an insurance person. I don't know if you've ever talked to insurance people, but after 10 minutes of listening to them, I just glaze over because I have no idea what they're talking about. And so what happens is my level of understanding of insurance is here. The sales insurance guy comes in and they start talking at this level. So in other words, I start losing them because I really don't understand what they're talking about. So at this point, my understanding is here, they're talking up here. This is known as information asymmetry. There's 2 different knowledge levels. And when there's 2 different knowledge levels, your brain immediately defaults to, let me think about it, I'm not sure what I need to do. In other words, your brain, that amygdala, that fight, flight, or freeze part of your brain says, yeah, let me flight, let me not make a decision now because I don't understand. And oftentimes we may, as salespeople, be talking over our customer's head, so to speak. So what we can do in sales, and I talk about this in the closing the credibility gap, is we need to do one of 2 things. One is we need to lower our language. In other words, simplify our language through stories, metaphor, examples, case studies, whatever it may be. But at the same time, when we educate our customer, we bring them up. And remember the old saying that eye level is buy level. So if I can simplify the information, educate my client, and get them to the point where we're at eye level, buy level, then that credibility begins to close in a positive way. And I think that's what I love about it.
Yeah, and I think tying it into our residential sellers, right? It's a little different commercially. You know, our commercial sellers are out there selling to people that have already had pest control. You know, in all likelihood, if they're chasing the right kind of prospects, they already have pest control. So we're just in a kind of a gap replacement kind of deal. To where oftentimes when we go out, particularly on an office lead, residentially, we have that insurance. Forget about the insurance man. The Orkin home sales inspector has all the knowledge. And while the customer may have tooled around a little bit on the internet to get a little bit of understanding about termites or whatever's going on in their house, they aren't as dialed in as you are. And I think oftentimes my experience has been with salespeople is we kind of want to, I don't want to use the word necessarily show off, but we want to just kind of like cram it down the throat that we're the expert, we're the expert, we're the expert, we're the expert. You should listen to me, you should listen to me, you should listen to me. And we do end up sometimes talking down to them and never getting that comfort level that I think we try to arrive at, you know, kind of that balance to where I think one of the things I always tell people is slow down. Let the game come to you a little bit. There's no need to rush. You know, you got one on the hook. You know, don't try to, as Gordon Mellering would do, don't try to, you know, yank them in and bring them in too fast. You got to bring them in slow. You got to take your time with them. And I think too often times we tend to talk down to the customer. I don't know if that makes sense, but I see that and I feel that sometimes with our residential people when I'm out hanging out with them and you get into that situation because you want to try to, you know, puff your chest out and say I'm the Orkin Pro and I know everything, but sometimes you got to back that down, slow that down, and let them kind of assimilate that.
Yeah, I read this study that I thought was interesting. It talked about, for example, that in today's market, it's not so much about educating your clients as much as giving them the confidence to make a decision to move forward. Said another way, people know they have options and they feel that probably one is better than the other, but what we have to do is give them the confidence to make that decision. And it's in our language and how we're talking to them, how we're explaining things to them. Now, again, you're probably saying, yeah, Victor, I get that. But do you really? Because too often, as you said, Ed, we're trying to impress them, but we don't take the time to slow down and really walk them through. Yeah. Look, this is what I mean. This is how this works. And the best example I can give you is when somebody was trying to describe, like, you know, different energy inefficiencies in the house, and you know, the person finally said this, and look, Victor, here's what it means to you. If you take up all these energy inefficiencies around your house, that's like having a hole the size of a basketball in your wall. And all you saw was a visual of money going through that wall. And I'm like, got it. And the best of the best salespeople know how to simplify concepts like that so the customer goes, ah, I get it. So you should be more impressed with the customer going, ah, I get it, than your ability to kind of impress them with your words.
Amen. I think too often we dump too much stuff on them, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we want to educate them, but you got to educate them at their pace. You know, if you try to do a data dump of all you know about termites to the customer, you're losing me. Yep. I'm out. You know, I'm like, I don't need to hear all this. Cut to the facts. Let me know what I need to know and help me understand maybe better what I need to know. And instead of just, you know, show up and throw up, you know, that kind of stuff. So
I've always had that visual. Somebody told me this one time. It says, it's like dumping a bucket of water on a dry sponge. Most of it's going to go over the sponge. What you need to do is just gently drip it on the sponge so it'll absorb more. And I think that's always been a great visual for me to keep in mind when I'm training.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's one. Again, we skipped that stone on that, you know, closing the credibility gap. That's one lesson of the 12 that are in there. That's 4 minutes. That's 4 minutes. We probably just spent 6 or 7 talking about it, but that's what we're trying to do with skipping these stones. We're trying to tease you to get in there. Right. So, you know, if you've already done the blocking objections and your boss is telling you to do something else, spend some time on your own. And I would recommend that you jump into that closing the credibility gap.
Love it.
What else?
By the way, just as a reminder, again, it's in the persuasion tab.
Yep.
And in there, closing the credibility gap, and that's all I had.
Yeah. So let's skip another stone.
Sure.
So the elephant in the room, since we started doing these together, has been kind of what Victor hung his hat on with us at Orkin in the Atlantic Division when we brought him in 11 or 12 years ago to talk to we considered them our high performers. We invited them down to participate in a class with folks that move to the next level. And I mean, there's like 3 of them on this call that were like in one of those first classes, which is super cool. Shane was one, Jason Sire is another one. But what you really hung your hat on and what really grabbed my attention was the whole triple cheeseburger analogy, right? So while we haven't led with that, we talked about it. It's legendary around Orkin, you know, the Donleys and the Sires of the world.
That's
they talk
funny.
about pitching triple cheeseburger. I see it on all the group meets, pitch to triple cheeseburger. Let's talk about options and offering options and try to convince folks that they need to do more of it.
Yeah, I have a confession to make. So, and I'll do it here live so you can see it. Is that the triple cheeseburger came about a study that was done by Sonoma Williams with bread makers, and I was like, well, nobody's going to understand a bread maker, so that's why I decided to use the burgers as an example. So the study basically went like this: they had 2 bread makers, one let's say 150, one at 250. Now they built at 250 thinking they would move up market, but what wound up happening is once they added the second option to 250. You would think they would buy the more expensive. Again, they wanted to move up market in the luxury market. But what happened was everybody started buying the cheaper bread maker. Again, pushed it down. Why? Let's think of psychology here. What's happening in the brain is the following. The amygdala, again, your alarm system, fight, flight, freeze, that part of your brain. When it sees 2 options and it's not familiar with the options or not sure, it'll always go to the safest option. It'll mitigate risk. That's why when you offer somebody 2 options, they'll look at the one that's least riskier, the cheaper one, and go with that one. So then, how do you get people to buy the more expensive one? Obviously, if you had one that's even more expensive, now the Goldilocks effect kicks in, right? Too hot, too cold, just right. That's how the brain works. That's why having the 3 options is a brilliant strategy, knowing that they're always going to choose the one in the middle. When you bundle your services, you have that thought in mind. Again, low bundle, medium bundle, and a high bundle, and just watch the magic happen as they all drift towards the middle. Now, I should highlight that 20% more or less will always buy the more expensive product because these are status buyers. They want the best of the best. That's what I love about the study. There's always 20% that are going to go for the biggest cheeseburger.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that, right? So, I mean, just to kind of button that up a little bit too, I thought Victor was full of it, right? When he told me the story about the triple cheeseburger. And it just so happened we were calling on Wendy's, right? Who invented the triple cheeseburger. We're calling on Wendy's. We're in Columbus,
That's
Ohio.
funny.
We're making a call on Wendy's.
In Columbus, Ohio?
In Columbus, Ohio. That's
Wow.
the home of Wendy's. That's where Dave Thomas is from. Dave Thomas has since retired. I think the poor fellow's passed on. But a guy that grew up in the business with him. So I just looked at him. I said, hey, man, there's this sales guru that's running around talking about why Wendy's invented the triple cheeseburger. Maybe there's not a lot of truth to it. But he said, no, I was in the marketing room when we decided to launch the triple cheeseburger in an effort to sell more doubles because they had the double and the single. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I said, you're full of it. He said, no, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
So
It's real. It's
Sometimes
real.
there's truth in what everybody spits out there.
It's real. It's real. By the way, study after study has actually shown that, again, just offering different options. In another session that we're going to do, and I'm going to show them that with the triple option, how you can get them to buy the biggest one. How do we get more than 20% to buy the big one? We're going to get to that one next.
And I think that's been the experience of some of our folks when they started pitching the triple bundles that, oh my God, they bought it all.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a hesitancy, not for the folks that are knocking out that, not those 29. It's not those 29 folks that are struggling with pitching the bundle or putting it all out there and pushing it all on the table and telling them, hey, take out what you don't want, I'm cool with it. I think there's a hesitancy that when you go out on a termite lead particularly, right? I just want to lock this termite job down. I know they need some help in their attic. I know they need some help with their pest control. Man, they might have some mosquito issues, but I'm gonna focus on this one and I'll come back later and get the rest of it. And they never come back later. The cat's putting up $100,000, put all of it out there on the table. I scratch my head oftentimes at the hesitancy, and I kind of get it psychologically that we're afraid of blowing the deal because we're going to ask for 12 grand instead of asking for 3 grand. So I get that, but I would encourage you to kind of work your way past that. One of the other things that's a big head scratcher for me is Tim Tarantella's on the call, and his call center, like 60% of the people that buy pest control, they wrap a bundle of mosquito in there and just sell it, right? And the customer doesn't even blink. They take a $600-700 general pest control sale and they turn it into a $900, $1,000 bundle just by asking. And I'm always kind of puzzled by the lack or the I guess the shortfall in what I think should be more mosquito sales by our field salespeople. We got 1,100 people out there in the field. When you count the home inspectors and you count the account managers, we don't generate nearly enough mosquito. So even if it's just adding the mosquito service, can I protect your family and pets against mosquitoes this season to your bundle? I think you can pick your average job price up $300-400 right there. And I think that's the impact of adding bundles. Your job price goes up and you make more money.
Your average deal size goes up. I find that a lot of people are hesitant to go after the bigger deals because they're buying with their wallet, not with the customer's wallet. In other words, they're prejudging what they think the customer will buy based on what they would buy. Does that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about that all the time. I didn't buy insulation. We talked about that the last broadcast. I didn't buy it for like 3-4 years, because I didn't believe in it. So, and I wouldn't spend it. I figured I would go up and do it myself, but I never did it. So I eventually bought it. But I mean, I think that's one thing. So focus on the bundle. I mean, try to track that down and I guess pitch some cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
just pitch some cheeseburgers.
I mean, the thing is, again, I think also another part of that is they're afraid of getting the no or losing the deal.
Yeah.
But I think if you come from the center, I think the core of every salesperson should be, I'm just trying to help you give you the best of what I've got.
Yeah.
And if you're holding something back, it's quite unfair to the actual customer because you're rejecting something they may need, but you've made that decision for them by not presenting it.
Amen.
So let them reject it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Didn't mean to get all preachy on that one.
No, we're all good.
Yeah.
Can we skip our fourth stone today?
Yeah.
So we skipped the I want to think about it. Mm-hmm. We skipped the creating credibility.
Yep.
We skipped the cheeseburger, the triple cheeseburger.
Gotcha.
So I was in New Orleans last week. Last week? The months all run together. But I got a chance to get in front of the New Orleans termite team. They have 10 inspectors in the branch, and so we had an awesome meeting. I mean, it was just like cool. Like Victor's in front of 5,000, I'm in front of 10. But I'll take my 10 over your 5,000. I think I had more fun.
Okay.
Maybe not. We didn't do any crazy concert stuff. We didn't do any dancing. You don't want to see me dance anyway.
Right.
But we got a chance to get together with that team, and one of the things that we talked about, and we started to talk about, and I want us to talk about it today because I think it has a lot of impact, is framing price. Not so much anchoring price, but framing price. So talk a little bit about that because we had a phenomenal conversation.
Right.
So much so that I wanted to address it into this one too.
You're getting that southern draw. Did you hear what you say? It's like framing price, framing price, framing, not
11
framing.
years in Atlanta.
Framing
I can't
price,
help myself.
Framing price. So when we talk about framing price, so one of the things I talked about in one of the workshops a while back, because I learned this, and I think this is powerful. When you're talking to a customer, in their mind, I want you to put yourself in this scenario. You're ready to present pricing, right? Go through the details. And let's say that whole proposal part takes, let's say, an hour, for exaggeration. Some of you can do it in 30 minutes, 45. Let's say an hour. So as you're talking to the customer about what you're going to offer them, in their mind, if there's no pricing anchored already in there, they're like, how much, how much, how much, how much? And then, let's say 10, 15 minutes into the conversation, they go, well, how much is that going to cost more or less? You're like, I'm getting there. Let me just kind of a couple more things. And then you keep showing them, and this, it also includes that, it also includes that. Now, every time you say it also includes that, you also get that, that's also going to be included. They're going, well, how much is this going to cost? How much, how much, how much, how much? And that's what their brain is doing. How much, how much, how much? So then, let's say 45, 50 minutes in, you finally give them the price, and they go, whoa, that's more than I expected to pay. And then they're ready to end the conversation because we've been talking about this for 50 minutes already. So there's not a lot of time this is the key phrase, to socialize the pricing with them, which is why we'll say, let me think about it, let me get back to you, let me talk to my spouse, let me get a couple other bids. Now, rewind the tape, all the way back. Now, what if, and you'll have to pick your moment, what if, say, 15 minutes into the conversation, you frame the price for them? You say, look, it's going to be between 1,000 and let's say 3,000 or 5,000, whatever it may be. 1,000, let's say 3,000. Now, you've given them a frame of price, and you say something like this. Now I know 1,000, 3,000, you're probably hoping it's closer to 1,000. Well, let me go through the options, and then you decide. Now, you've done two things. One is you frame the price. So that amygdala, that reptilian brain, is now calm a little bit. It's not panicking anymore. And they're hoping that you're closer to 1 than 3. But now here's what's happening interesting. He says, by the way, in this package, you'll at least get this. In this package, you'll at least get that. Now they're not going, how much, how much, how much? They're going, okay, so it does include that. Oh, okay. So I also get that. That's part of the package if I go with that option. In other words, you've shifted the mindset by giving them a frame. You've calmed down that anxiety as opposed to just sitting there going, how much, how much, how much? So I am a believer in
anchoring price or framing price early on in the conversation, and then we can focus on the conversation. I think if you wait to the end, Ed, they're just fear-based, and people who want to wait to the end are just scared to drop price because they don't believe in their value. If you believe in your value, you go in and with that authority to say, here's the price, here's what's going to happen, let me give you a range, let me walk you through what's included, what's not. At the end, you make the decision. I mean, not like that, but you know what I mean.
Amen.
In a very nice way.
Amen.
What do you think?
Yeah, and I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, back in the day, when I was hired, if, we were taught, if they ask for the price, just, well, hang on, we're going to get to that. Hang on, we're going to get to that. You'll ask again, hang on, we're going to get to that. And let me get to page 19 of my proposal, and I'll give you I'll share the pricing at that point in time. I think you put yourself at a tremendous disadvantage when they know that you know how much this is going to cost, at least a ballpark, right? So I'm not saying that we knock on the door and we say, hey, Victor, I think this is going to be between $3,000 and $6,000. I mean, you got to find your spot.
Right.
I know one time when you got a frame price is the first time they ask. I mean, if you try to dodge that question,
Yep.
I think you put yourself in jeopardy of just kind of irritating and aggravating them, right? Yep. And I've seen people do it, and you just see people get turned off because, I mean, when you pull in the driveway, how much the service, you're going to have a ballpark on the service. I think the other thing you do when you frame price, people talk about building value in sales, and how do you build value in sales? I think it's pretty difficult to build value when there's no target. And I love framing price because it says, okay, somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, whatever you choose, whatever kind of makes sense in the situation, depending on what we put together. I think when you do that, then you give your chance. So they're sitting there thinking, okay, $4,000, $5,000. Okay, he did this, she did this, she did that. Wow. They went in the attic. Look at the graph. Look at the presentation. Look at what they're doing versus everybody else. So I think you give yourself an opportunity to build to something that they see a mark on, right? I mean, they see the difference. And I think if we don't do that when we're asked, shame on us, right? Because we should have that kind of pride in our price. Again, you don't beat them down with it, like you said, but you say, hey, $3,000 to $6,000. Let me finish up my work and we'll figure it out. Even if they ask you early when you're walking around, because a lot of people are panicked, right? Particularly when you get an inbound lead, they're freaked out. And I think the other thing that you have at our advantage, and it ties back to the second rock we skipped, the asymmetry symmetry, right? If you're trying to get on their level and you're holding back on this price, and you're not giving them anything to build to, can you get eye level with them if you're holding all the cards till the end? And they can't see you building your way to that solution, right?
I never looked at it that way. That's interesting. You said something that's also, because I've had this question, Victor, what if somebody calls in? Let's do inbound, right? Somebody calls in and says, look, just give me a price, right? And I always remind people that that's fine. When people call in and says, just give me the price. Well, then give them the price. Just give them a nice range. But you say something like this. Somebody calls in, I just want to know how much this is going to cost. What I always say is, it's going to cost between $1,000 and $3,000. I can hone in on that price if you just let me ask you one or two questions. Is that okay? And without exception, everybody always says, yeah, go ahead. What are the questions? Because what you've done is you've calmed the brain down in that moment by giving them a range. Now, they're, again, hoping for the cheaper price, but they'll say, go ahead, ask your questions. As opposed to, let me ask you a bunch of questions before I give you a price. Nobody wants to hear that. But if I frame the price early, then I've gained permission to ask questions.
Absolutely. And think about it as a consumer, what do you think this is going to run? If somebody tells you they can't tell you, then you just feel
it's like alarms go off, right?
You can't know that until I let you know that, right? And again, that whole symmetry asymmetry thing, it's like, this guy's talking down to me, right?
Yeah, but it's that what you referred back to, that we were taught you build value first, you present the price after you build the value. The problem is customers going, no, I want to know the price first, but here's the interesting if you do it right. If you frame the price earlier, then everything you mention builds value. Again, I get that. Oh, that's also included. Yeah, you also get that, and that's also part of the package. And now the customer feels like you're not hiding anything, as you pointed out.
Absolutely.
Symmetry kicks in, and I think we have a connection.
No, amen. Amen. I don't know, we're 35
minutes.
Man,
we just cruised with that one. That was fast.
We skipped 4 stones.
Yeah.
The goal is to get you curious enough to dig deeper into all of them. The academy's there. It can be overwhelming, as I mentioned before, but I got a couple housekeeping things if you're cool with that.
It's all yours.
So let me do a couple housekeeping things. So for all of our rack sellers out there, the rack contest ends at the end of this month. So I talked to Terrence Reeves this morning, the guy that kind of runs the rack thing, and Michael Martinez, and the way that the month is going to end. So the work has to be done this month, right? It's got to be completed this month. You need to make sure that if you've got jobs that are being done today, tomorrow, and Thursday, that you get the office to submit those Friday. You know, some of the branches might not get closed until next Tuesday because of the holiday. So they're going to keep the purchase window open till end of business Wednesday. So you folks, there's a lot of folks on the bubble. This is the most competitive. The bar has been raised so high for this rack rewards trip that, I mean, there's folks just on the edge. Don't let yourself get cheated. So if you've got rack jobs that are being done now, check your purchases. You know, somebody in the office, you can go in and check your own purchases yourself to make sure they're all getting purchased. You want to make sure you got your paperwork super tight, because the last thing you want is a rack reject when you're trying to make some bones to punch your ticket to New Orleans. So that would be my first mention. That they're going to close that window end of business Wednesday, so don't get that piled up. What else? So I want to share a bit of a story. There's 3 days left in the month, right? So we got today, and we got tomorrow, and we got Thursday, right? And I think sometimes towards the tail end of the month, our salespeople kind of look at it. Well, we can't get any work done. In most places, we can't get any work done because we've sold so dang much business. The backlog's there, right? So we can't get it done. I think oftentimes we lose sight of these last 3 days, and we kind of come stumbling out in the first couple days of the month. And I'm really worried for all of us the way that the holiday hits, right? So I'm guessing there's going to be a whole bunch of folks that maybe take Friday off, and then it's kind of a slow start on Tuesday, right? So you end up really getting back after it. The first day of the month that you're really out there selling is going to be the 5th of the month, right? So you got to start hustling after that. But what I want to mention with that is that with 3 days left, you can make an impact. And I'll share a story that I shared on the broadcast earlier. I was invited into the North Texas region meeting. They do a Teams meeting every Monday morning with all of their salespeople and all of their managers. And it's really cool. And you sales managers on the call, I encourage you to just go forth and duplicate what they're doing there. What Jacob Johnson does is he starts off the meeting with a short little music video that the top salesperson from the week before gets to pick. So this week it was Jose picked Eye of the Tiger or something, right? I'm like, oh, here we go, Rocky, right? So I mean, everybody's getting pumped up, right? But the next thing that Jacob does was really unique. And the top salesman from each day, from the previous week, from last week, there were 5 different people that were the top salesperson that day. They get to share their story about how their day and what they sold. So, just sharing it. There were re-inspections, office leads, follow-ups, all kinds of cool stuff got flushed out. But the reason I'm going to mention that is that 5 different people, the lowest top day last week in North Texas was $13,000. So when you think about it, I got 3 days left. What would a $10,000 day look like if you threw that up today, tomorrow, and Friday? How would that set you up for your paycheck, moving into July, right? So think about that. So never lose sight of that. I always talk, every time I talk to a salesperson, go throw up 10K. Go throw up 10K. And it's funny, I mentioned this on the earlier call. I saw Roy posted on GroupMe, right? We pick on Roy because we love him. But Roy posted on his GroupMe on Saturday, and Kevin Tinsley will verify this. He posted on his GroupMe, I'm gonna go sell $10,000 Saturday. Love. And danged if he didn't do it, right? He went out, because he had the mindset right, he had it all right, and he went out and got it done. So that's my message to you. You got a couple days left. Go throw up 10 grand today. You can do it. You can do it. So I think that's it. The other piece that I would reiterate with the North Texas team is they are just cleaning everybody's clock. They are wiping you all off the map as far as REC goes. They are putting up numbers in that region of 30 plus salespeople. And they just overtook a couple of our other big boppers for total purchase dollars, on top of running a 72% region-wide market share. And all those salespeople, those top 5 from last week, all but one sale was wrecked. They're running a 72% market share, and I think they had 3 or 4 dudes on the $100,000 club.
Killing.
So again, it's never the land. You got a target. You want to chase rack? Go chase Jacob Johnson and Alan Fowler down there and see if anybody can catch them. Just 2 more things. It's hot as Hades around this country right now, and I always worry about. I think often we pay kind of lip service to our technicians, and I think this is the time of year that you really got to be mindful of them. Take care of them. You hear me all the time talking about taking care of the technicians.
As a salesperson, I didn't necessarily have the best relationship with my branch manager or my service manager, but I by God, had a great relationship with my technicians, because at the end of the day, it's you all in that mix together. I think we could function terrible. Shouldn't say this to the man. There's some managers on the call. We could all. I think some of us could survive without a branch manager if we had a good relationship with our tech. And again, not to poo-poo that, but are you taking care of them? Are you showing up, giving them showing up with the Subway sandwich? Are you showing up with drinks, with Gatorades? Are you running in? I don't know how many of the branches are having regular Tuesday morning meetings, but are the salespeople kind of running that and saying thank you? Are they bringing in a case of water, whatever? Just take care of your techs, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. And then the last thing I've got, Victor, is we've had some bumps and bruises on access to the Sales Velocity Academy. We've got some folks that we need to get invited in. So if you're having difficulty getting in, if you had a couple of bumps, Victor's daughter, Camille, has offered to kind of help us kind of mitigate that. So what I need you to do, don't send it to me directly. Send it to your region sales manager and then get it to me. I know there's a whole bunch of folks we got to get access to, particularly the new hires. And then in addition to that, some folks that are struggling and some managers that want it in. So kind of retune that list up to me today, or over the next couple of days. And my goal is to have that buttoned up this week.
Love it, love it. We'll take care of it. And by the way, he's referencing my daughter. She manages the whole Velocity Academy for me, so I don't have to be there. So if you have problems with access, whatever it may be, through your regional sales manager, it'll get back to me, and we'll take care of that.
Awesome.
Yep.
I don't have anything else. Any parting words?
No, I got some good stuff here.
Let's look at
MS later says 15 minutes, question mark, exclamation point. I think your point there is that, you mean, do I have to do it at 15 minutes? No, I pre-qualified what I said by saying find your moment, but early on in the conversation. You guys are the pros. You guys determine that. Jason Sayer says, you guys are straight up killing. Appreciate that. Best so far yet. Reminds me of Atlanta, making me want to sell. Frame pricing yesterday within 1 minute of settling down. And triple cheeseburger option was all good, but Rack says no. And then let me see. Dawn seems excited about something. John Bingham, maybe 13,000. Let's go do it. Ooh, I like her. And that's all I'm reading right here. I got the bigger screen, so Ed's got this little small screen.
I got the old eyes.
Yeah. So there's a nice Jacob. Alan says, really appreciate your effort. NTX, what was that? North Texas, Oklahoma. Another 100K a month for Jason Bushy, Doug Morgan, and Daniel Oliver. There you go. Big numbers, man.
Yeah, so how we're going to do this, and we'll get out of here so you can get back on your way and go sell 10 grand today. We're recording these broadcasts. We'll pick the best one, and I'll push that out to you later today. What we'd love to hear from, maybe tomorrow by the time it gets all edited and gets kind of tuned up. When I send it out in the link, I'm going to send it out just like I sent the invite out to you, a couple nights ago. I'm going to send it out in a link so you'll have a copy of the broadcast and for the folks that missed it. But more importantly, when I send that link, if there's something you would like us to talk about as we move forward, we would much rather talk about what you want to talk about than what we think is important, because you all are the ones out there getting after it every day as the Orkin pros. So we would love to hear what you want us to talk about.
I want to hear from people getting their butts kicked every day.
Amen. Amen.
There you go.
With that, that's 45 minutes on the dot. Continue to separate yourself from the competition, be different, and good selling.
Go Rollins.